his cousin Ado Adoyan had some relationship with the government in Yerevan, and he was arrested and sent to Siberia for about 10 or 15 years. This also appears in the Gorky letters and to Vartush. And Gorky doesn't come out, well, I wouldn't say that he come out crystal clear in his attitude to Ado, because he was very close to Ado when he was a boy. They were brought up next door to each other in the village of Hopkong. So they presumably knew each other very well. Gorky must have also known that the suppression of the Communist Party, the first Communist Party in 1936, was tough. I mean, people were arrested on no great grounds and were put on trial and sent to Siberia, which is what happened to Ado. But Gorky's sympathy is more with Stalin than it is with Ado. At a certain point he says, what's the matter with Ado? One day he's a Dashnak, another day he's a socialist. And so this arrest of Ado puts Gorky slightly on the spot, because although he should have felt very sympathetic for Ado's position, and to a certain extent he was, he doesn't assume that Ado is an innocent victim of this thing. Anyway. Excuse me for interrupting my reading this thing. I mean, one day these letters will have to be heavily footnoted to explain absolutely everything. My dearest ones, there's no other reason for my delay. Oh yes, when they came back from Armenia, they stayed with Gorky in his studio in New York. And Vartush was quite a depressed personality. So she'd stand at the window of the studio and with the tears streaming down her face. Although Gorky felt very sympathetic for this, it also drove him mad, because he was having his own struggles with his own depressions, and the last thing he wanted was a sister who was even more depressed than he was. So he basically got rid of her. He asked his friend Davis to give Vartush's husband Murad a job as far away from New York as possible. So Murad ended up working for a subsidiary of La France Industrie in Chicago, and Vartush lived in Chicago in Ardmore Avenue, right next door to Alice Kilikian's mother, who is executrix of Vartush's will. So you can see it's all one big extended family that we have here tonight. Anyway, Vartush naturally said, please come and visit me, I'm longing to see you, and so on. And Gorky would constantly say, well, why don't you come here? But you can't come here now because they're redoing the studio, they're painting it, and there's a lot of dust everywhere. But so no, well, when this is finished, then maybe you can come to New York, or else I'll come to Chicago. In effect, he only saw her once, that when he went to San Francisco in 1941. On the way back, he dropped in Chicago to see Vartush. But otherwise, his letters are filled with promises that they'll meet again, but they never actually did. My dearest one, there's no other reason for my delay in coming to Chicago that I don't come at once than what I write. To begin with, the owner of my studio told me perhaps a month ago that I'd have to get out if they pull the building down. But for the moment I've heard nothing, although I've spoken to them a couple of times about this. Then no one understands this government's operations, that is to say our project, written in English. They took $5 off our weekly wage, but even that's not been implemented yet. Then I was waiting because they promised to give me another job on the World's Fair. Despite all of this, in August I'll come over and see you for 2 weeks. I've truly missed all of you. Dear Vartush, today I painted so much that my knees are trembling from being on my feet. If I'd known that painting was a very difficult thing, I'd never have started. But that, not getting into painting, is also a headache. I suppose I was born for this. Yes, all day today you were standing on my eyelids, and occasionally I thought that you, Murad, and Karan were there together, and we were singing sad songs. And I was painting my portrait. I gave my eyes exactly the shape of leaves. These two leaves constantly told each other, yes, yes. It's very sad. A month ago I cut my hair entirely, and really I look like a peasant. For that reason, dear Vartush, I don't like long hair at all in a drawing. portrait. Now, there's a lot of difficulty in translating this, because unless you've studied a long time, you really don't understand the connection between the singing sad songs and the shape of leaves and the cutting the hair. What has that got to do with painting a portrait, except that Gorky, when he painted hair, made the shape very simple and straightforward. When I come there, my sweet, I'll paint you. I've made a very wonderful drawing of Mother in charcoal, putting a great deal of time into it. It came out very well, and when I come, I'll bring it to you. And this is the drawing which is in the Art Institute of Chicago now, and it is one of the few drawings which he did give to Bartusz, because there again he was promising to bring her things and send her things, presents and drawings. But most of them were given to Bartusz after Gorky died, because he never actually made it to Chicago with the presents. My dear ones, you absolutely must not worry about me. I'm well and I'm working. And that exhibition which the Modern Museum sent to Paris, Lenora, my friend who is now in Paris, wrote to me to say that the Paris newspapers liked all my paintings a lot and had written that Arshile Gorky is the most original painter in America. Then the painting was published. This business of original is in the letters. That kind of reiteration, I think, it's common in other languages too, you know, best. Then the painting was published in the best magazine on art in Paris and the world, called Cahiers d'Art. You know, that magazine that I always buy to see the works of Picasso. I'm so glad that you put up my painting of Picasso. Well, obviously he didn't have a painting of Picasso, he sent reproductions of things to Bartusz in Chicago. Dear Bartusz, what news do you have? Can't Murad get a job for him, that is for Mugadic, to be in charge of the trucks in the Boston store? All right, Murad is the brother-in-law working in Chicago. Mugadic is the husband of Arkady, who is back here in Watertown, living in Dexter Avenue. She stayed in Dexter Avenue until 1945, and then they all moved out. She, her husband, her son, her wife, and her 2 children, and the whole tribe that she had in Dexter Avenue moved to California, so Gorky never saw them again. Let him ask Davis at once, because Davis, the man who'd fix this, to get cook and jobs. I'm glad you have male and female friends. That's good, my dear. That's the right thing to do. Do you love, dear girl? Oh, haha, I love. You and your love. This is quotations from songs, which it might have been a Vanetsi song. Here, Father Krikor knows a lot more about it than I do. He's looked for the song, but he hasn't found it, because there apparently were hundreds of these things. I love you with kisses of great nostalgia. Kiss Murad and Karlan for me. Write to me very often. I'll write to you soon to tell you of my arrival. With warm kisses and embraces, your brother who always loves and thinks about you, Gorky. A very nice, all these letters to Bartusz, very nice and very affectionate and very elder brotherly, you know. The point about Bartusz is to cheer her up a bit, and the reference here to say go out and make some friends, yes, that's good. Because Bartusz had a tendency to sit in her apartment in Chicago and look out the window and weep, which, you know, Gorky made a big effort to get over his own depressions, and he didn't see why Bartusz couldn't make a singer out of it. I'm sorry I interrupted you.